The football season is nearly here, and we're getting you ready for kickoff. This is Big 12 Media Day coverage live from Frisco, Texas, presented by Omada Real Estate. Buying or selling a home? Trust the experts at Omada Real Estate. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Big 12 Media Days coverage. Jake Scott with you live from Frisco, Texas. It's all brought to you by Omada Real Estate. Buying or selling a home, check out Omada Real Estate. The action continues on. Joining the show now, he's the head coach at the University of Cincinnati, Scott Satterfield, with us here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coach, thank you very much for a few minutes. How you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Great. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Do you dig media days? I know it's so funny you get mixed answers from coaches sometimes.
Not particularly. there's a lot of talking, and I don't think we're all trying to figure our teams out right now. And letting the guys go work through summer workouts and training, and enough for us coaches right now. It's kind of our vacation time. And they got us out here in Dallas, so. It's all good to talk about our guys. That part I do like, to be able to pump your guys up and talk about them and all the things that they've accomplished and what they hope to accomplish.
We just had a few minutes ago, we had a chance to talk to your new quarterback, J.C. French. And first of all, what an impressive person.
Yeah, he's a great kid. Yeah,
great. Gave us a great interview. And I asked him a question on, you're a quarterback and that comes some leadership. So how do you come in as a new guy and be a leader? And he gave a great answer on how you really have to prove it out. So I'm curious to your thoughts, not only on him as a quarterback, but how he's doing so far coming into your program.
Yeah, I think, obviously we made a bunch of calls, watched his film, and liked him, brought him on campus. Really loved the way he handled himself, his mom and dad. And then, of course, when he got on campus, you start teaching him the offense, and then you go into spring practice. And I thought he had an outstanding spring. I thought he actually performed better than what I thought he would be, quite honestly. And that's what you want to see. But the way he handled himself, I thought was even more impressive because he didn't come in trying to, be somebody he wasn't. He was humble, but he was competitive. But he earned the respect of his teammates, and I think he did it the right way. They all knew coming out of spring that he was going to be our starter, and I think I love his demeanor and how he handles himself. He's now this summer he's really coming out of the shell more and becoming more of a leader and more vocal, I think, and because he recognizes that he is respected by his teammates.
How hard is the balance between doing what you want to do and what you've historically done and what he is good at? How hard is it to meld that?
Yeah, that's the job of a coach, man. We got to take what the guys can do and let's let them do it. And I think we're still learning about him. We had the 15 practices, but we'll still learn as we get into August camp. What he really is good at and what he really feels comfortable at. With doing, and that's what we'll have to do, and so we're still learning that. But yeah, we have to do the things that he feels good about, and what our offense feels good about. And I think, if we can do that, then we've done our job. And I think, for him, there's going to be opportunities to make great plays, and he's got to make great decisions, as we all know at quarterback position. But he is smart. He picks up very, very well what we're trying to get him to do, and I think. Hopefully, as we head into the fall, he'll be ready to go.
He had a funny answer about seeing snow because he's from
Georgia.
He's from Georgia, so he said it was. He said he loved Cincinnati, but it was funny to see snow. I'm curious, what do you think the strength of your squad is going to be this year?
Yeah, I think probably the strength of our guys is up front. Our offensive line, I thought, had an outstanding season last year, where we were one of the top teams in the country, not giving up sacks or tackles for loss. We got 3 of those guys back, and they're all solid players. And I think as a quarterback's best friend is your guys up front, and I think that's probably the strength of our team. I think we do have our punter back, who's an all-conference punter, and our kicker back, and our long snap. People always that goes unnoticed, but the specialists are pretty good players. And then I think we hired a new defensive coordinator this offseason, Nate Wood. He's coming from Army. He was there for 6 seasons, and he was my coordinator that I had at Appalachian State when I was the head coach down there, and we worked really well together, won a lot of games. I think he's one of the top defense coordinators in the country. So I'm looking at opportunity to work with him again. I'm excited about what he'll be able to do for our defense, and I think it'll certainly help our team.
So the league isn't that new anymore, and so I'm curious what you've learned about the league, being in it for a few years now, and what you like about it.
Yeah, this league is wild, man. This league is so good, I think, from top to bottom, and all the different places that you actually go play that is very cool. There's a lot of good venues that we're going to play in and have played in. You learn it each and every year. I know this. There's great coaches in this league, and there's really, really good players. And if you don't have a good week of preparation, you go into that game, then you're going to get beat. There's no question about it. Nobody in this league gives you anything. You just can't show up and think you're going to go win. It doesn't happen in this league. I was in the ACC for 4 years, and I felt like there was a few weeks in there that, man, if you just had an average week, you can still go win. In this league, it doesn't happen. It doesn't matter who you're playing. So, it's kudos to all the coaches in this league, and it's very, very competitive. But I love the atmosphere that we get to play in each and every week.
I have a hot take about Cincinnati that I think you can really win there. Get players there, and as the college environment changes a little bit, I think schools have different advantages that are emerging. So is my hot take right? Can you win big at Cincinnati?
No, you can win big there, and Cincinnati has won big.
Yeah.
Obviously now we're at a power level, and it's a lot more competitive. And there's a lot more to it, I think. We just built a brand-new facility, $134 million football building that has an indoor and, locker room and state-of-the-art training room and weight room. So that's going to help because we just finished our first year, so that's going to help in recruiting and enhancing our players. A lot of it depends on how much are we funding the program, and when it comes down to relatively to all the other teams that we're playing. And I think – certainly our administration is trying to do the best they can to give us the most funds that we have to be able to compete. And if we do that, then we get the right players. We got a great opportunity. It is a great place. It's a great city, and it's a lot easier to get there with there's a big radius of players that are right around that we can get to come play for us.
I hope with those new facilities you still go back in my day. Like back in my day, we had a medicine ball. You guys don't know how good you got it.
We still use some of the stuff back in the day. I got to tell you that our strength coaches, they just sit in their offices and come up with stuff. Hey, what if we do this? And I'm like, where in the world you guys come up with this, right? Yeah, coach, it's awesome. So they come up with some stuff, but yeah, I think it's all in what you do with the facility, right? I mean, it's not just having a nice building. You got to get after it. You got to push your guys, and our guys are extremely competitive, and I think they've been competitive this summer.
So I want to get your thoughts about late in the season because you look back at the past couple of years and things have fallen off a little bit late. And a comparison I'll bring up is Utah when they got into the Pac-12 because we're from Salt Lake. So just so people – and they had a tough time in November, their first 3 or 4 years. And Coach Witt always said it was about depth because injuries are going to happen. And I'm curious, is depth something you're working on or how do you keep it more consistent at the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, depth is certainly a piece of it. You guys get dinged up by the end of the year. This past season, we played Arizona, Utah, BYU, and TCU. They're 4 pretty good teams.
Yeah,
they all won double-digit wins. I mean, so it's like, we played some good teams. And so, that part of our schedule, we got to figure out a way to win those games. And we were close in a few of those games. But it's all about finishing, and it's about making the plays when you need to make the plays. But this league can come down to a few plays, and if you don't make those, shoot, we won 7 in a row. We were 7-1, and then, we run into the late season where we got to make that push and we got to find a way to win. But I think it's a lot of different factors that come into that. But I think it's just a matter of making the plays.
How do you set expectations and goals and then communicate that to the squad? Yeah,
the way we're doing that, and we do it through our players, we have a leadership group that we talk to each week, and those guys are helping to come up with a lot of these goals. But a lot of the goals that we come up with are process-oriented, and they're weekly goals so you stay in the moment, and if you don't set a goal, we got to win every game, because if you don't do that, like if you lose a game, like now those goals are gone, so it's like process-oriented goals and where we refocus each and every week and be the best we can throughout the week. And there's 3 or 4 different things that we're doing for that. I think that's the best place to be is process-oriented.
Well, Coach, thank you very much for a few minutes.
Yeah,
I know you're very busy. You're so nice to come over here and see us. We appreciate
you guys.
it.
Yep.
All right, there you go. That's the head coach at Cincinnati, Scott Satterfield, kind enough to join us here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. And, we're going to talk right now with Arizona. We're going from one coach to another. Arizona head coach Brent Brennan throwing on the headset with us here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coach, thank you very much for a few minutes. Great to see you.
No problem. Good to see you, too.
Hey, we had a chance to talk to Noah Fafita earlier today, and obviously covering the conference for a few years. We're familiar with him, and what a special young man. I'm sure you have high expectations for him this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that young man never ceases to amaze all of us and just what he contributes to our team, our program, and our community.
I'm curious now, going into to year 3, you took over at Arizona. I heard a little bit of you talking up at the podium and being behind a little bit and then really catching your footing in year 2. Tell me what clicked last year.
I think the biggest thing is that we just decided.
Speaking of the man, we were just talking about you.
He's the best right there. No, I think the biggest thing is I think we did a good job of defining, what our expectations are for how we're going to operate as a program day in and day out with our coaches, with our players. We have great alignment on the staff. And then everybody's ready to move forward together. And we just kind of made it really simple for the players and the in baseline, what we were bringing in and what we were keeping there in terms of our players and our personnel was simply like tough, love football, and want to be at the U of A. And if you don't have those 3 things, then go play somewhere else. And that ended up being a good formula for us.
So now they've got some expectation and momentum. Does it change things at all going into this year?
I think we're still looking for the same clarity of kind of purpose and culture and how we're going to build the team we want to build. I think with the expectations comes a little bit more of like how do you manage that with your team. There's the public side, the outward facing stuff where everyone's kind of kissing their butt as they're walking around town and telling them how sweet they are and all that stuff. And so there's a lot of conversations with us. It's just like, is that making you soft? Is that making you not about the right things here, not about the process? And I think our senior leadership on our team and then also our coaching staff's done a good job of fighting to keep us on track.
So with that in mind, what do you want the strength of the team to be, or what ideally would be the strength of the team?
Really I want our identity to be a team that plays harder than everybody else, and you can see it when you turn on the tape, and then a team that looks like they're having more fun than everybody else. And I think, today's day and age with football and kind of the profile and how big time it is, I think sometimes the fun can get a little bit lost in the process, but I want our players to enjoy the journey and enjoy the experience, and I think we can do both.
What do you think of the league now you've been in it a couple of years?
God, the league is tough, man. It's impressive. Everyone's good. Everyone has good players. Everyone's well coached. I've been incredibly impressed with just week in and week out what that looks like, and for our players to understand and for our staff to understand that, in this league most of the games are decided in the last 8 minutes of the game, and so get ready for a 4-quarter fight, and that's how it's going to be for every game in the Big 12.
This may sound like a dumb question, but how do you prepare your team for those critical moments? Because you're right, it seems like we're watching close games all week, every week.
Just try and educate them, try and show them, some video proof of what that looks like. Try and show them some of our games from last year, and then in the practice environment, try and create some of those situations where they have to operate in that space.
How does your defense look this year?
I think it looks good. Now we lost 4 players. We lost 5 players to the NFL in the secondary. 4 got drafted. Another one signed as a free agent. It's a really great group of guys. But I got a ton of faith in Danny Gonzalez, our defense coordinator. And then those guys in the secondary, they've demonstrated that they can develop players and get them ready to play. So I got a lot of faith in Chip Viney and Brett Arcee, who split our secondary duties. So I'm excited to see what they do with the group we got in there.
We live and breathe the Utah-BYU rivalry, so I like asking other coaches about rivalries. And tell me about the Arizona State rivalry.
It's fun. I think it's one of those ones where, in the state, most everybody went to one school or the other. And so the hatred is real. It's got like a real edge to it. It can be a little bit nasty with the team up north, but it's also fun to look forward to that game and to know what that is, when you're getting ready to play them.
You've got to go, I believe, I don't have in front of me, apologies, but you're going to Provo this year, right?
We
and
are.
Utah is coming
To us.
to you. Can you talk briefly about those 2 squads and what do you expect from those games?
I think those will be 2 of the best teams in the league. You know what I mean? I think that both those programs have demonstrated that over the years, and I think that those we had a crazy game with BYU last year, in the double overtime, loss for us, but got a ton of respect for Kalani and a ton of respect for Morgan, and so I think obviously the BYU thing is early, which makes it weird because you're going to just have this like super high profile game to me early in the season on the road at a place that's tough to play. But at the same time, it's also going to be a lot of fun because it's going to have all kinds of energy to it. It's going to have the crowd will be crazy. The TV stuff will be big, and the story around the game will be big all week, so it'll be fun.
This may be projecting, but I feel like the western part of the league that kind of everybody but BYU, I guess, came in together. It feels like there's almost, maybe not a rivalry, but a special relationship with those schools.
I don't know about. I mean, I think just because there's familiarity there.
Yeah, right.
Like it's like they were all part of the Pac-12 together. They all left and came to the Big 12 together. So I think that part of it, just like it's different when you come into a league like we did. That was my first year at Arizona. Like you're going to all these places where like most your players and most your coaching staff has never coached or played a game. It's way different.
Yeah,
like I'd played in a bunch of games and coached in a bunch of games at BYU. Like I knew what to expect there. But then when we're getting ready to go to like Iowa State this year, or we're getting ready to go to Central Florida, like you're like that's something different.
It's all new.
It's totally new.
Well, listen, Coach, thank you very much for a few minutes. I know you're very busy. We really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you in Arizona a couple of times play our local schools.
Sounds good. Bear down.
Thank you very much, Coach. All right, there you go. That's Arizona Coach Brent Brennan. We're supposed to hopefully talk to Rich Rodriguez coming up. Stay tuned. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All the insight and analysis of the Cougars, Utes, and the rest of the conference. Live from Frisco, Texas. This is Big 12 Media Day coverage on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Presented by Omada Real Estate. Buying or selling a home? Trust the experts at Omada Real Estate.
Big 12 coverage right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone at Big 12 Media Days. Jake Scott. Want to remind you about our friends at J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. Our coverage down here from Texas, from the Star here, is brought to you by our friends at Omada Real Estate. Buying or selling a home, check out the good folks at Omada Real Estate. Big thanks to Brent Brennan and Scott Satterfield, the two coaches we just had in the last segment. What an action-packed segment that was, the Cincinnati coach and Arizona coach. I certainly think two teams that have the ability to win some games in the Big 12 this year. We're going to talk to Rich Rodriguez, head coach at West Virginia University, coming up here in a matter of moments. So we're super excited to talk to Rich Rod. Of course, old school Utah fans of Pac-12 media days past will remember Coach Rodriguez, and what a good interview he usually is at these things. So very much looking forward to talking to Rich Rod, so stay tuned for that. After that, coming up a little towards the end of the hour, we're expected to talk to Jaden Craig, who's the incoming quarterback at TCU, and he's transferring in from Harvard. So, and actually bringing some monster numbers from Harvard to TCU, and I would expect that playing in a Sonny Dykes offense, those big numbers would continue on. So we're still fast and furious here from Big 12 Media Days. We've heard from the entire Utah contingent already today, and actually we'll re-rack some of those interviews coming up a little bit later on in the show. But I was just talking to Stone here off the air. Stone, who's of course our on-site engineer and has done some mighty work lining up interviews for us down here in Texas. But everybody from Utah was really good today. Of course, you would expect Morgan Scally, who's been a good interview for many years. We had him on early this morning. But Devin Dampier, Jonathan Hall, Lance Holtzclaw, and Wayshawn Parker, we got a chance to talk to all those guys. And all those conversations were very, very good. So would encourage people to check that out at KSLSports.com, as we had the BYU contingent yesterday down here in Frisco, Texas, and Utah today. And it's been very action-packed. In fact, shout out to both the Utes and the Cougs, who I thought did a really terrific job in selecting which players to send down here to put the best face on the program going into this season. And as we hopefully we'll talk to Rich Rodriguez coming up here in a second, I think they're one of the more interesting stories in the league this year. As say what you will about Coach Rodriguez, and he's been a lot of places, but he is a really good coach, and he knows how to win at West Virginia. And I always thought that was going to be a successful reuniting with Rich Rod in West Virginia, even though retread coaches, it doesn't always go terrifically well. In West Virginia, and maybe you can make this comparison. We were talking to Scotty G and PK earlier today about having a formula to win at a certain place that maybe would be a little bit unique. In the context we were having the conversation was Morgan Scally moving into the head coaching position at Utah, and not going to change the formula much of what is successful from a recruiting And from a schematic standpoint, I think the same can be said for West Virginia. You know, Rich, we'll ask Coach Rodriguez about this, but he knows who to recruit, what that will fit his system and that will succeed in Morgantown. And I thought we saw that last year as West Virginia took a little bit of a step forward from where they were. I honestly expect West Virginia to take another step forward. And as we talk, and we were talking about candidates for schools that might not necessarily be projected in the top part of the conference, how there's always a school that seems to, in this Big 12 conference, seems to play its way to the top where maybe we didn't expect them to do so. You know, we mentioned Arizona State a couple of years ago who came out of nowhere to win the league. But look at Houston last year that kind of came out of nowhere to really compete for the conference title. I'm expecting another school to do the exact same thing this year. So while we're talking about Texas Tech and BYU and Utah and Houston and Arizona being the favorites to be at the top of the league, there will be another school that emerges and plays its way into contention. And I don't know if that will necessarily be the case for West Virginia, but I will tell you this, I would not be surprised if they are the school that indeed does that, because Rich Rodriguez is a good coach, and I think you give him another year in his system with those players and to add players that fit with him. I would guess West Virginia is going to put a pretty formidable squad on the field this year. Now, the Mountaineers do not play BYU this year, but they do play Utah in the very last game of the season, Friday, November 27th, and that's going to be at Rice-Eccles Stadium. And Rich Rod, no stranger to coming into Salt Lake City and playing big games. We saw him do that a number of times while he was at Arizona. In fact, had some success, certainly against the Utes in November, coaching for Arizona, and he'll have the opportunity to do that again this year with West Virginia. So we'll talk to Coach, hopefully coming up here in a few minutes, and talk to him about his squad that he is bringing to the table. We're also going to get to some podium sound coming up a little bit later on as things have slowed down a little bit here at Big 12 Media Days. We still have players and obviously coaches that are coming around and doing interviews, but we'll hopefully have a chance to hear from Morgan Scally and his media availability at the podium. But Lance Leopold is at the podium today. Colin Klein now at Kansas State. He was at the podium, so we'll have a chance to hear from them. Hopefully Brent Brennan, we'll have time. We just had him on the show, but we'll have time to slip in his podium sound as well. And then a little bit later on, we will revisit the Utah stuff. Oh, and I should mention, I talked about Morgan Scally and the players. We had Mark Harlan on the show earlier today, and I think Mark stayed for about 20 minutes. A really, really interesting and fascinating conversation with the Utah athletic director. And, I've had a chance to talk to some of the Utah people behind the scenes a little bit as we've been down here and talking about the buzz with Otro Capital, but not only conceptually, but it's been fun to talk to them about how they're implementing it and kind of what the task is to streamline everything up there at the University of Utah. And from my perspective, it was helpful to get to know a little bit more about what success will look like with that partnership and how that exactly is going to play out. And I've been on the record saying that I'm not that wild about this idea, and I'm not that wild about Utah being the first school to do it. I don't know why they have to be the kind of canary in the coal mine, but that's what they've chosen to do. And if they execute it correctly and it is successful, maybe it can be a model for other schools out there. I think the University of Utah certainly is confident that it will work out, and this is going to be something that gives them the edge, at least in the short term. And I guess that's another thing that I haven't really appreciated as we've discussed the evolution of college football, and we've been hearing the buzzword around here being unsustainable from all these coaches and athletic directors about the current state of college football. And I get the impression that a lot of these teams and I believe Brian Santiago talked a little bit about this yesterday, but a lot of these teams are just trying to figure out how to keep up and get an edge and keep an edge until the next version of whatever we're going to see actually comes and takes place, which secretly, or maybe not so secretly, I think a lot of these athletic directors and coaches are crossing their fingers and truly hoping that whether it's the legislation that's currently at the federal level comes out, or some sort of solution to fix the system to make it more consistent and more enforceable rules to even the playing field. I think everybody, or it seems like it, in this conference, maybe if we talk to Cody Campbell, although he is the one pushing the legislation, so maybe not, but I think everybody around here is hoping for some sort of I don't know, for lack of a better term, law and order to find its way back into college sports. But in the meantime, I think a lot of these ADs and coaches and schools are figuring out a way to not only keep up, but to find an edge, because you've got to exist in the now while you wait for a later, or wait for a solution that might never come. And the University of Utah is trying to find its edge, or a way to succeed in this evolving situation, and make sure they're in the best position possible for what exactly comes next. So it's been pretty fascinating to talk to some Ute people behind the scenes about how that's playing out and what's going on. And one person I talked to said it was great that the philosophy, or that it's no longer an idea, that it is coming into practice. So we'll talk about that more a little bit later. But joining the show now, he's the head coach at West Virginia. He is Rich Rodriguez with us here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coach, it's great to see you.
Good to see you.
Great to talk to you.
The last guy, last one on the docket.
Oh,
today.
hey,
Yeah.
how about that? Well, hey, listen, thank you for making time for us, because I'm sure you don't remember, but I went to Pac-12 Media Days forever, and you were always a highlight on the schedule. So I'm glad you gave us a few minutes.
Yeah, I make all our media people nervous, because my filter's even less now than it was back then. So they're afraid, what are we going to say? My daughter especially, she's over here somewhere. She usually watches me. Oh, what Dad going to say now? But no, it's fun. It's good to see you.
So do you feel like you're back in the groove in Morgantown?
We had, the first year is such a whirlwind now but we had to actually flip our entire roster again. We had 80 new guys last year and 80 new guys this year. The difference this year is we had a little bit more time, a little bit more money, and we have, we had a little bit more purposeful intent, I guess, when we got guys out of the portal and out of the high school ranks. So, we only have 14 seniors this year as opposed to the large number we had last year, and we think we got better at every position.
So obviously that's a little extreme, but is that the new norm, that you're just going to have a bunch of new guys?
I hope not. No, I think going forward, I don't want to have to do this every year. So this 2 years of it is enough. If we evaluated the right guys and picked the right guys, then this time next year we've only flipped about 20 or 25 of them. That's our goal.
How much do you balance, you've been doing this a long time and have your system and the way that you like to do things. How do you balance the player as opposed to your system and meld them together?
Yeah, it's really, we think, pick the player, and we'll change what we got to do for him to fit our system. But it isn't so much like nowadays. You got to have guys that are talented, of course, but you really need to find guys that have talent, but also love football and not like it. And there's a lot of guys nowadays that just kind of like it, and so you could tell a little bit in the recruiting process. Is he going to be a guy that's going to work really hard to get really better at his craft, or is he a guy that's already kind of think he's arrived and not going to work any harder? So, we take a lot of pride in that. We still coach. Our coaches still coach. I'm not I don't know what a player's coach is. I think players play, coaches coach, administrators administrate. So we tell our guys, we're going to coach you, and we're going to have you create value for yourself, because we're going to make you better from the day you're here to the day you leave. And we take a lot of pride in that, and we want players that want that. And I think most of them do. But there are a few nowadays that get twisted a little bit, where it's all about the money they're making or the fame they're going to get, and it's not about them, getting better as a football player and also getting an education while they're doing it.
When you were first at West Virginia, they were still in the Big East.
Yep, Big
Am
East.
I remembering that right? How do you like this league? How do you like Big 12?
It's well run. I think our commissioner folks do a great job. There's a lot of teams spread out throughout the country, but we had to do that. I remember when I was in the Big East, I was nervous because I said, we're doing well, but I said, I don't trust these other schools. I think they're going to eventually go out for themselves, and I think there was a thought process that we'd all hold hands and sing Kumbaya, and I'm like, they ain't singing Kumbaya. They're leaving. They're taking off on us, and so we're lucky we got. In my opinion, I wasn't at West Virginia, but we were lucky we got in the Big 12 when we got in, and because the Big East was imploding, and our folks got us there. It's a great league. I think it's getting better. Everybody's committed to their sports programs, and it's well run. So, we're glad where we're at. Now, I have my opinions on going forward. I'd like for us to have a big super league and regionalize it a little bit like, the NFL is and that kind of thing. But I'm speaking on my own opinion, not everybody else's.
Think something like that will ever happen?
Oh, it should. But I don't know if it ever happened, because in order for us to all come together and share the profits, then somebody's going to have to give up an advantage. And schools are so competitive by nature. They're like, why would I want to go ahead and let them be the same as us? I like the advantage we have right now. We're getting double what they're getting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's going to be the hard part to overcome, is that somebody's going to have – and that's basically why it's in D.C. right now, is you're going to have to force people to give up their inherent advantage that they have, and that's a hard thing to do.
Well, I grew up a Virginia Tech fan, and I remember those Big East days. It was a good league with Tech and Miami. But the regionalness of, specifically West Virginia and Virginia Tech was something really special. So
and they look
I'm with
forward
you
to that all year. People that lived in the border states, what have you. And for your Olympic sports, it's so much easier from a travel standpoint, a competitive standpoint. But that thing happened a long time ago. But if we're going to fix it, to me, for long-term fix it and be able to have the revenue and the excitement we have, you got to think outside the box. But if the SEC and the Big Ten aren't going to cooperate, then we're kind of stuck. You know what I mean? That's kind of the deal. You have to force them, because they're not going to give up their piece of the pie to help out the betterment of college athletics and help out the Big 12. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where we're at.
You have to go to Salt Lake City at the end of the year in November.
Yeah, it might be a little cool there. It gets a little cool in our place in November too. But I've been there. I think in Arizona, we've played most of the time. I think it was toward the middle part, toward the end of the year. I don't remember any snowstorms or anything like that. But they have a great environment. They're into the games, and I can remember that from our days at Arizona.
Well, there was one year, at least you played in November because it was rainy, and you went to Salt Lake, and I remember you practiced in the sprinklers and all that, and then you took it to them.
Because it never rains in Arizona, right? And
right.
So we actually had a sprinkler system at our stadium to simulate the rain in the water. I'm like, why do we have a sprinkler system? It's to water the turf, so it was so hot. And so I turned the sprinklers on and just got our guys soaked. It was soaked. So when it did rain there, our guys like, Coach, this ain't nothing. Practice was harder than this. So, yeah, we're ready for it.
Excuse me, Coach. We really appreciate you coming by. Thank you.
Yeah,
last
good
stop
to see
of the day.
Appreciate it.
No, that was great. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks
very
for
much.
waiting around. Appreciate it.
There you go. That's the West Virginia head coach, Rich Rodriguez, who's kind enough to join us here on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone, and we're gonna keep it right on going. Excited about our next guest. He is the quarterback for TCU, Jaden Craig, with us here on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Hey, thanks for a few minutes. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm great. How about you?
Man, this is best. We're talking football like it's right around the corner. Amazing.
Doesn't get better than this.
No, it does not. How do you like your new spot? How do you like TCU?
I love it so far. All those things that I was really looking for, once the portal opened up, are all coming true. So, just really blessed for the opportunity.
Now, you're coming from Harvard, right?
Yeah.
So is it nice to be on scholarship?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely nice to be on scholarship and just take some of that burden off my parents.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Well, what was that experience like? Not many better schools than Harvard.
Yeah, just unique. I think that's the only way I can describe it. The football gets overlooked. I think it's definitely smaller, but I think there's still high-level players on each team. And, you get to, play for that school and also, challenge yourself in so many other ways and meet so many interesting people. So I'm forever grateful for my experience there.
I should know, but did you have a chance to graduate?
I did, yes. I did in December.
What'd you major?
Economics.
Oh, good for you.
Thank
Tough?
You. Yeah, it definitely could get tough. I won't want to say it's easy, but, like I said, just so unique and just so grateful for that experience, whether it was, extremely hard or easy sometimes, just overall just the best 3.5 years I could have asked for.
Now, you put up some killer numbers, so I'm guessing that TCU wasn't the only school that came calling, so why the Horned Frogs?
Yeah, as soon as I got on campus, just felt the family-centered culture that Coach Dykes has fostered, and that's kind of rare in the era of NIL and the revolving door of every player, not knowing if they're going to return. I think he's done such a good job keeping the same team and same players. I think as soon as I got on campus and was talking X's and O's with Coach Samus and Coach Robbins, right away I knew that's kind of the level of development I was looking for, because I got 1 year left to prove myself. So just getting exactly what I was looking for development-wise just made the most sense.
Obviously, the quarterback is pretty important in Sonny Dykes' system, and you put up some wild numbers at Harvard. Do you think your game fits what they want?
Yeah, I think 100%. That was also part of what made the transition so easy, is that there was a lot of carryover from the schemes I was running at Harvard to here. It was really just the different verbiage and signals was the hump I had to get over, but felt really plug and play and definitely catered to my strengths. So, really good opportunity.
As a quarterback, you kind of look to be a leader. That's understandable with the position. But how hard is it to come into a new circumstance with guys who are familiar and take a leadership role? How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it just starts in January, just showing up and doing all the little things right. I don't believe you can be a vocal guy right away until you're proven. So really just showing up and showing all the guys I'm willing to put in the work, and then in spring, performing at a high level. And then, this summer is kind of when I've really been able to open up and become more of that vocal leader that has been able to push these guys to where I think we can come as a team.
It's a little hotter down here than it is in Massachusetts.
Only like 20 degrees hotter on average. It's definitely up there, and some I'm not used to. But to be honest, it hasn't been as bad as I thought it was going to be. I know it hasn't really gotten to the levels that it will get to, but even just the casual 100-degree days aren't as bad as I thought they'd be. So,
is there a casual 100-degree day? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for Dallas, it's just people so casually say 100 degrees, and that's unheard of in Jersey. But yeah, I mean.
Well, maybe not this summer. I hear it's pretty hot back there.
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple days ago it was over 100, so
yeah, right.
It's a different Jersey, I guess.
Yeah. What do you know about the league, and what do you expect from the other teams in this league?
Just a highly competitive league, a very balanced league, and just so much talent that I think it's going to be a really, really good challenge for me and the team, week in and week out, and we're really excited for the opportunity.
We broadcast in Salt Lake City. Curious what you know or have heard about BYU or Utah.
I mean, I know BYU has had a lot of success in these past couple years, but honestly can't speak much for the state of Utah. No, it's beautiful, but haven't been out there and don't know much about Utah.
Well, we'll welcome you. Yeah, we'll bring you in.
I'm sure.
Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us, Jaden. We appreciate it. Good luck with everything going forward.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, be well. All right, there you go. That's Jaden Craig, new quarterback at TCU, live here from Big 12 Media Days. We will have more for you coming up straight ahead, live from Frisco, Texas, in the Star. All our coverage is brought to you by Omada Real Estate. Buying or selling a home, check out the good folks at Omada. More next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
College football is nearly here, and we're blowing out the budget on our coverage of the teams you can't live without. This is Big 12 Media Day coverage, live from Frisco, Texas. Presented by Omada Real Estate. Buying or selling a home? Trust the experts at Omada Real Estate. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Big 12 Media Days roll on here from Frisco, Texas. I can't do that, Christian. I'm just not a TV guy, dude. Christian's talking to me about looking into the camera instead of looking off into nowhere. That's very difficult for me, Christian.
You look very wise looking around.
Well, I am very wise. Did I ever tell you about the the time that I filled in as the Bees field MC? And I was supposed to be doing this live shot from the upper bowl where I was I was doing some sort of contest. And I get done with it, and the person, the person behind the scenes or whatever was like, why didn't you look at the camera at all? You were just looking off into every direction. And I was like, I don't know. I'm a radio guy. I'm not a TV guy. I don't look into the camera. That's not what I do. I look like an idiot looking around everywhere else. I just can't help it, Christian. So I will do my best to stay focused. No, it's not practice. It's just I'm everywhere, dude. I'm all off. I can't look into the camera. It makes me feel weird. What if I'm looking into my computer? What am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay, so I can just stay focused on my computer instead of...
You can go Ben Anderson and just bury your head in your computer.
Just bury my head in the computer. Nothing else is happening. Just focused right on, right in on that. All right. Well, I can try and do that. We've got a bunch of stuff coming up, so things are slowing down a little bit. We're still hoping maybe to grab a player or two. We've got Stone out there trying to track somebody down for us. In fact, I think he is working on Iowa State defensive end Isaac Terrell. So we'll hopefully have a chance to talk to him. Also, Stone is working on maybe, and I don't want to jinx it, but possibly having some Ute players maybe all at once back on with us. So that's what we're aiming for in the next hour or so, but we'll see. Sometimes things are, as you listeners out there or absorbers to the Jake and Ben show know, things can be a little chaotic down here, especially at Big 12 Media Days. Not quite the what am I looking here? Structured affair that Pac-12 Media Days or even Mountain West Conference Media Days used to be. So bear with us. We're working on some stuff. We're hoping to have some pretty unique content coming in the next hour or so. But we have, since things have been so busy with the revolving door of coaches and players live with us here on this show, we haven't had a chance to hear from some of the podium comments earlier today. As the schools today that have been at Big 12 Media Days are Arizona, Cincinnati, Iowa State, Kansas State, TCU, West Virginia, and, of course, Utah. And so we have not heard any of the podium sound. So coming up in the 3 o'clock hour, we'll probably hear some of that podium stuff depending on what comes in and out here at the table here at Big 12 Media Days. But we have not had a chance to interview Colin Klein yet. So coming up probably in the next segment, we'll hear from the Kansas State head coach and what Kansas State is bringing to the field this year. But also, we haven't heard from Sonny Dykes quite yet from TCU, so maybe we'll get a chance to hear his podium sound. A little bit later on in the show, we'll hear Morgan Scalley's podium address, and we'll also replay Morgan's visit with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Morgan was up bright and early. He was at the table and chatting with the guys this morning in the 8 o'clock hour. So we haven't had a chance to revisit that. So we will revisit that conversation coming up a little bit later on in the show. All right, coming up next, we're getting word from Stone. We might have a chance to have some of those Ute players on at the same time, so stay tuned for that. And then also we've got Colin Klein's podium sound coming up in the 3 o'clock hour as well. So stay tuned. Live from Frisco, Texas, it's your Big 12 media coverage right here on 97.5 DKSL Sports Zone.